Wow. Okay. This concept of inheritable AI nanobots is it's a lot.
Yeah, science fiction,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. It sounds like, I don't know, Star Trek or something.
Right.
But the thing is, the source material we have this time is it's a conversation with an AI chatbot.
Mm-hmm.
And it suggests that this might actually be possible. Like it's not just a fantasy.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. So where do we even begin with something this massive? I mean,
Well, I think the potential impact is probably the best place to start.
yeah.
Imagine like a future where human capabilities are not just enhanced,
Right.
but they could be passed down through generations.
Like inheriting superpowers or something.
Like a built-in supercomputer in your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost too much to wrap your head around.
Definitely.
But I think before we get lost in the what ifs,
Yeah.
maybe we should ground ourselves a bit in the how can this technology actually work? The chatbot mentioned something about nanobots interacting directly with the brain.
Right. So the idea is that you have these self-regulating nanobots, and they actually like integrate with the human brain.
Huh.
So they essentially become a part of our neural networks.
Okay, so we're talking about like neural integration.
Exactly.
And that makes me think of brain-computer interface technology, BCI.
Mm-hmm.
Are those two concepts related at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, BCI is like a stepping stone, I guess you could say, to this kind of technology. The nanobots would be using similar principles to communicate with the brain.
Okay.
And, it's not just about like receiving information. It's
Yeah.
about enhancing like how we process it, how we learn, how we even think.
It's like overclocking the human brain.
Yeah, exactly. And the chatbot actually uses this term neural power boosting.
Neural power boosting. Okay, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean, like practically speaking?
Okay, so think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to learn a new language, right? So instead of struggling with it for months, these nanobots could potentially help you absorb all that vocabulary and grammar in a matter of days, maybe even hours.
Wow.
It's about pushing human cognition beyond its natural limits.
So I could be fluent in Italian next week.
Potentially, yeah.
Amazing. But are there other, what other applications are we talking about?
Yeah.
Does the chatbot go into any specifics?
Well, it specifically mentions enhanced vision as a potential outcome.
Oh, okay.
So imagine being able to see in like infrared or ultraviolet.
That would be incredible to perceive the world in like a whole new way.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, but this is all pretty futuristic, right?
Yeah.
How would these nanobots actually be designed to do all of this?
Well, the core concept is self-regulation.
Okay.
These nanobots wouldn't be like static machines. They would have to adapt to the environment of the human body and interact with our neural circuits seamlessly. It'd be almost like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really tripping me up is this idea of it being heritable.
Yeah.
How could we possibly pass down enhanced intelligence and capabilities to our children?
Right.
Are we talking designer babies here?
It's definitely a touchy subject.
Yeah.
But the chatbot does suggest a couple of possibilities.
Yep.
One is through, genetic editing.
Yes.
So modifying the DNA of future generations.
So they would be compatible with the nanobots from birth.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see how that might work.
Sure.
But I can also see how that would raise a whole bunch of ethical questions.
Definitely.
What was the other possibility?
The other one, which is even more fascinating, is through something called epigenetic integration.
Epigenetic integration. I'm not familiar with that. Can you break that down a bit?
Okay, so think of it this way. Your DNA is like a cookbook.
Okay.
And the nanobots are like expert chefs who can adjust the recipes, slightly, bring out hidden flavors, make the dish healthier, but they're not changing the core ingredients.
So you're potentially inheriting not just the nanobots, but also like the optimized settings for your genes.
Yeah, like inheriting a perfectly tuned operating system for your body.
Okay, that's mind-boggling.
It is, and it gets even more interesting because the chatbot talks about this AI network like evolving over generations.
Yep.
So each generation's experiences, their knowledge, even their unique genetic makeup would contribute to the evolution of the system.
So it's like a collective intelligence growing more sophisticated with each generation.
Exactly.
Are we talking about fundamentally altering the trajectory of human evolution?
I mean, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And it leads us to another crucial aspect of this technology, which is the potential for both physical and cognitive augmentation.
Okay, now we're getting into the really, really wow factor.
Right.
So what kind of augmentations are we talking about here?
Well, we've already touched on enhanced vision.
Right.
But the chatbot actually describes enhancements that go way beyond what we currently think is possible.
Like what?
Like increased physical strength and stamina, accelerated healing through nanobot intervention, even the potential to slow down age-related decline.
Wait, are we talking about superhumans here?
Yeah.
Like Captain America levels?
It definitely pushes the boundaries.
Wow.
Imagine a world where broken bones heal in a matter of days, and athletes are performing at, like, superhuman levels.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
And while it all sounds amazing, I think we need to talk about the potential downsides.
Yeah.
The risks and challenges that come with this level of advancement.
Right.
Because let's face it, with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
And a lot of potential for things to go wrong.
Exactly. And that's a really critical point, As exciting as these possibilities are, we can't ignore those potential risks and ethical dilemmas.
Right.
And that's something we'll dig into more in part 2 of our deep dive.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, so this technology could be absolutely revolutionary.
Definitely.
But even the best inventions, sometimes they have downsides.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Unintended consequences. What are some of the ethical things we need to think about here?
Well, one of the biggest ones is informed consent. If we're talking about something that could change human evolution, who gets to decide who has access to it?
Right.
And how do we make sure people really understand the risks before they make a decision like that?
Especially when it could affect, like, their kids and their grandkids.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a huge decision.
And even if we figure out the consent thing, what about control? I mean, who's actually controlling these nanobots and the AI?
Right.
What's stopping someone from hacking into this system?
Yeah, that's a big concern, the potential for misuse,
Right.
What if someone got into the network and stole everyone's data?
Yeah.
Or even worse, what if they could control the nanobots themselves?
It's like a sci-fi nightmare,
Yeah.
A few people have all the power and the rest of us are just left behind.
And that's why we need really strong ethical guidelines and regulations.
Okay.
The chatbot talks about global cooperation being really important here.
So international treaties, ethical guidelines, maybe even some kind of global group to regulate this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that even possible?
It might be hard, but it's a conversation we need to have now.
Right.
Before this tech becomes a reality.
Okay, but let's say we figure out all the ethical stuff and the rules.
Mm-hmm.
What about just the practical side of things?
Right.
These nanobots would need power. They'd need to be able to fix themselves.
Yeah.
And they'd have to work for generations. Is that even realistic?
Well, the chatbot does suggest some solutions.
Okay.
Like, it says that the nanobots could tap into the body's own energy sources.
Wait, they could be powered by us? How would that even work?
Well, for example, they could get energy from glucose, our main fuel source.
Ah, okay.
Or they could use the energy created by our movements.
Wow, so they'd be self-powered.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But what about maintenance? Like, they have to break down eventually, right?
Well, that's where self-regeneration comes in.
Okay.
The chatbot suggests these nanobots could be programmed to repair themselves, like our cells do.
So they can fix themselves.
Exactly, using molecules in the body.
So we're talking about tiny machines that can replicate and power themselves from our bodies.
That's the idea.
That's incredible and also kind of scary.
Yeah, there's always a chance things could go wrong, right?
Okay, so what are some of those potential problems?
Well, one is biological rejection. Even with the best tech, the body might reject the nanobots.
Yeah, especially since we're talking about the brain here.
Exactly. That's a huge risk.
And even if we avoid that, there's always the hacking risk.
Mm-hmm. Security breaches are a big concern.
Yeah. But I think we also need to think about the bigger picture.
Right.
What about society? What about our relationships?
Absolutely.
What does it even mean to be human if we can change ourselves this much?
You're getting at the really core issues here. If we can enhance our intelligence in our bodies and even live longer.
Right.
What happens to our values, our beliefs? How does society change?
It's almost too much to think about.
It is.
This idea that the line between human and machine could disappear.
Right. And that brings us to the most important point.
Okay.
It's not just about the tech itself. It's about the choices we make as a society.
Our values, the future we want.
Exactly.
So, it sounds like we're on the edge of a future that's going to change everything.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
What's the biggest thing that stands out to you from all this?
I think it's the scale of the impact.
Yeah.
We're not talking about just little improvements here and there.
Right.
It's about, changing what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's like we're looking at a map of a place nobody's ever been.
Right.
So much to discover, but it's also, like, kind of scary, you know?
I know what you mean.
Are we even ready for this?
That's a really good question. I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen what happens when technology moves faster than our ethics.
Right, right.
We need to be really careful here.
It feels like we're at this, like, crossroads.
Yeah.
One way leads to a future where we use this tech to make things better, solve problems. But the other way, it's a little darker. Yeah.
More inequality. Maybe we even lose what makes us human.
It's a tough situation, yeah.
It is. So what do we do? What are the next steps?
Well, I think the first thing is we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And not just with each other.
Yeah.
We need scientists, ethicists, regular people, everybody.
It's going to be a big conversation.
Yeah, we can't just get caught up in the hype or the fear.
Right. We got to think it through.
Exactly. We need to be informed.
Yeah, and develop some rules, some guidelines.
Yeah, frameworks to make sure this technology is used the right way.
Aligned with, like, our values.
Absolutely.
And research.
Yeah.
Not just the technical stuff, but the ethical stuff, the social impact.
We need to be prepared.
It's a lot.
It is.
But if we do it right, this technology could be incredible.
Yeah, no question.
I mean, imagine enhancing ourselves and passing that down to our kids.
It's a big idea.
It really makes you think about what it means to be human.
Yeah, it really does. Well, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So many big ideas.
I know, it's a lot to think about.
And everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
It's been a real journey into the future, but it's not over.
Nope.
We need to keep exploring these ideas, questioning, imagining.
Absolutely.
Because the future is in our hands, you know? It's up to us to shape it.
Yeah, it is.
So until next time, keep those minds open and keep diving deep.
Yeah, see you next time.